All right, since we have Cosmo students here, um, last week we ended off talking about consultations and just having an emphasis on skin and hair analysis. Let's pick that up this week and make sure you have a definite understanding of how to build a conversation, what you're looking for, and particularly hair and scalp. So let's look at why study hair and scalp properties. This is going to be great, especially if you had this before. It In many instances, it could be a recap. But when you guys are behind the chair and your client comes in and they're sitting in the chair, you're able to see a 360 of everything going on with their scalp. Even if you're in the grocery store, if you are at a family event, no matter where you are, most people will ask you something related to their hair. So this is part of building that expertise. Many individuals could have a talent, okay? They could have a skill, but it's very few of them that really understand what they're doing and what they see. And so part of your exam is your state board exam is going to be about hair and scalp properties and just a little bit about hair and scalp diseases. We'll jump in on that, but let's begin today. And I'm going to probably pull up a refresher from the ebook, videos, and the PowerPoint for this week. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get started. I pray you had an amazing weekend. We are recorded. This study session will be available on your YouTube. Let's go.
Bob has requested a perm from Marta, but after a close examination, Marta determined her client's hair is counting on you to steer them in the safest and healthiest direction for their hair's unique properties. And a hair and scalp analysis is the first step in determining those unique properties so you can make informed decisions about how to proceed. Services, like cuts and styling, are often determined by wave patterns, texture, and density. And more intensive chemical services like coloring, perming, and using relaxers can cause a different reaction in each person's hair. But when you know the possible effects, you'll also know how to avoid any negative ones. This is even true for thermal styling. By studying hair bonds, for example, you'll learn that if you're not getting the curl you want, you need to let them cool. Excess heat can damage the bonds.
I want you to hear this part one more time.
Excess heat can damage the bonds. If you're not getting the styling, by studying hair bonds, for example, you'll learn that if you're not getting the curl you want, you need to let them cool.
Bonds, peptides are all the rage currently right now in the beauty industry. When you talk about products and ingredients for hair care, like what are the new what's coming out, the biggest thing you have companies now are targeting, and this is a good thing. This is a good thing. They're targeting the makeup of hair, and that is amazing. You have companies out now that are saying, hey, let's go back to what the hair made up of, bonds, peptides, and see if we are able to add in these ingredients to help make the hair look and feel better and amazing. Of course, manageability can take thermal systems, can take color and different types of chemicals. And so just a FYI, all the craze and all the hoopla and intense study is on ingredients and products that can coincide with the way our hair was made up. So you're not buying products off of smell or how it feels or anything like that. Their focus is basically how do we uh, duplicate what the hair is made up of make that ingredient, couple it together, put it on the hair, and the hair receives it like it's that of its own. Okay. And so that's one thing we have to check out. I just wanted to make that statement there. So if you're looking at, you go anywhere and say, what is the hot products? What's going on in the industry? Well, the industry is more in depth. It's just like tech and AI. It has got deeper into what's the hair made up of. Let's build products and to really coincide with what the hair is made up of. Okay, so that's the hottest thing going on. And the products, you probably have heard of Olaplex, you probably have heard of K18, hydrotherapy. Those are some of your key amino peptides. Those are some of your key products and ingredients that are all the way. Okay, so if your stylist is not talking about those products, it's almost like what we do. Okay, what are we putting on? What are we revealing? We're just covering up something. So that's what's going on that's hot in the professional side of the industry right now.
Heat can damage the bonds. All right, you've mastered the properties of the hair and scalp, and your business is busier than ever due to your amazing technique. And Bob is walking out of the salon with his hair even healthier than before Marta redirected him to a short fade.
All right, so that was just something about hair and scalp. Let's look at the layers of the hair strand, and then we're going to move to our ebook in this particular area.
You know how it feels when somebody rubs you the wrong way? Well, hair has feelings too. It bristles when you rub it the wrong way. Go on, take a strand right now. Ready? Hold it near the root and slide your fingers down the strand toward the end. It feels smooth, even sort of silky. Now start at the end and run your fingers back up the strand. Feel that friction? It's kind of rough, right? That's because you ruffled the outer layer, the cuticle. It's one of the 3 layers that makes up the hair strand and determines how hair feels and behaves. The cuticle layer is clear like a window. The cortex is absorbent like a sponge. And the medulla? Well, it's a mystery. Back to the cuticle. It's the protective outer layer of the strand. It's made of overlapping cells that lie flat in the direction that hair grows, like feathers on a duck. So when you rub a strand in the opposite direction of growth, you're flipping those cells up so they catch on things, like your fingers just did. That irritates the strand, not to mention the duck. You can see through the cuticle to the strong, spongy second layer, the cortex. It forms the bulk of the strand and holds the color of your hair, either the one you were born with or the color you put on last week. The cortex also determines the hair's strength and elasticity. The thicker the cortex, the stronger the strand. The third layer, the medulla, hides inside the cortex. Scientists don't exactly know what it does or why people have it. Some people don't even have a medulla layer in their hair. Good to know it's there, if it's there, but nothing you need to worry about. What you should worry about is the cuticle. Its mission is to protect the cortex. And your mission is to protect the cuticle. Because even though it shields the cortex, it's fragile. Windows get broken, yeah? And the cuticle can get damaged or permanently ruffled if you mistreat it. Like brushing or drying hair the wrong way, exposing it to heat, sun, or wind, or abusing it with harsh chemicals that can make it swell. If the cuticle gets wrecked, there's no going back. You can calm it down with smoothing products, but they can only do so much. Once it's treated roughly, it gets an attitude, and it's hard to handle. So be kind to your 3 layers: the protective outer cuticle, the absorbent inner cortex, and the mysterious medulla.
So understanding these 3 is going to help you understand what I was talking about when it comes to the products and ingredients, the trends for 2026, okay? These companies are not, again, catering to people who want to buy products that smell good. They're catering to professionals who want to really save and rebuild hair. There's a trend that, okay, wigs and weaves, okay, they're hot. But at the end of the day, people eventually are going to want to wear their hair. And that's what's really huge now is preserving your real hair, treating your real hair, giving it style and pizzazz, but also, people want healthy hair. So yes, there's a big influence on wigs and weaves. Yes. But I'm telling you, I've seen this come around like clothes, nothing never really goes out of style and everything comes back around again. So after a while, you'll have those same clients who were lace, wigs, they were all part of the trend years ago. And now they're dealing with hair loss. So they want to wear their hair. They don't want to anymore be covered up. At the end of the day, every beauty professional, especially I'm talking to cosmetologists on here, professional cosmetologists, it will go back to the beginning. Preserving, understanding the cuticle cortex and medulla. This information is hundreds of years old, y'all. And as you can see in 2026, we're doing it again. Okay. This information is hundreds of years old. And as you can see, we are doing it again. Okay. Cuticle cortex and medulla. And so if you don't understand this component, you can't possibly tell someone how to treat their hair. Period. Okay. So I want to go back a little bit. I'm going to give you something as well, and it's called the epicuticle. So textbooks do not share about the epicuticle, all right? But textbooks share that there's 3 parts of the hair, the cuticle, the cortex, and the medulla, all right? I'm going to go back so you can understand these 3 because we're going to take a little quiz in a minute, okay? So let me go all the way back. The epicuticle is found before the cuticle, but that is advanced training information. They don't put that in typical textbooks, okay? One reason that many individuals who do a big chop coming from relaxers transitioning over into natural hair and say, hey, their hair feels good, it feels amazing, it's stronger, because it is not in the epicuticle, it has not been damaged. The epicuticle is damaged by overprocessing of chemicals, okay? Continuous reoxidizing of chemicals that's been left in the hair shaft. And so at the end of the day, yes, continuous bleaching wears and tears on the hair, okay, and can present overprocessing. Chemical relaxers, different phases of them, different bases of them can overprocess the hair and leave trace minerals within the cuticle. All right. So which if relaxer is not rinsed off completely, if bleach is not rinsed off completely, it may look good, but the next time that water hits it, which that person gets in the shower, you're going to start to smell that product in the hair. If you never smelled that, you probably never had a chemical. Okay. I do not push anyone to do any kind of chemicals within their homes because the water pressure cannot remove. That's why I said professionals to do these types of chemicals. So the epicuticle is removed when there's overprocessing in place. That's what everybody needs to understand. You cannot replace the epicuticle. That thing that protects the 3 layers, you cannot replace it. As the hair grows in, it grows in with it. All right. So when individuals do, yes, a big chop, they cut off everything. Their hair grows in stronger because you have that extra layer of protection over the cuticle. It is called the epicuticle. All right. I want to say Procter and Gamble scientists in the hair department, their hair scientists found that years ago. Okay. And it's just not sophisticated enough to, or it may be too complex enough to go into the textbooks. The textbooks are usually written on an 8th grade level. Okay. So you can imagine science in a doctoral level, it could really be a confusing. So they leave it over in the advanced areas and they use it to help build and implement strategies of new products. Okay. And so that's a little advanced jewel that you have. Is something for you to always remember. But traditionally, you do have the cuticle cortex and medulla, but we need to always know there's always something there. Okay. And overprocessing opens the hair up to so much damage. So we have to be mindful of the chemicals we use, even when we're talking about using doing silk press treatments. Okay, that's a chemical. Brazilian blowout, that's a chemical. Lye relaxers, sodium hydroxide relaxers, calcium relaxers. Relaxers come in so many different bases. Those are chemicals. Hair color, bleaches, those are chemicals. When those chemicals are not properly rinsed out, that cuticle will hold trace minerals. It'll hold little pieces of those chemicals. Those chemicals need water to reactivate, okay? So when water hits it, sweating, shower, rain, shampoo, when it hits it again and you start to smell that chemical, that the trace mineral, what was left behind, that lets you know, hey, it is some possible over processing, because when that water hits it, guess what? Or that sweat, that chemical starts to reactivate. It tries to reactivate. And that is the worst thing that you could experience, because that means that that person's hair was not properly neutralized or rinsed out. And what's been there has been silently processed. And we call that weeping oxidation. Please take note, weeping oxidation, okay? When you have not cleared the cuticle of all of that chemical, okay, product, and you have little bits of it, you say, oh, just one, and you say, oh, just one shampoo is good, or two shampoos. But if you still see it, if you still feel it, you must shampoo again. Okay, it's good to go in there with some stabilizer. It's good to go in there with some neutralizer. They're two different things to kind of help bring the pH of that hair down and clear trace minerals from the hair. If we do not clear trace minerals from the hair, we will end up with what we're about to learn about: dry scalp. Okay? Dry scalp. Scalp with abrasions, brittle ends. So the treatments, the stuff that people pay for to, I'm doing air quotes, bring their hair back to where it's supposed to be. That is going to be your journey. That'll be the client life. Is constantly trying to rebuild something that's been messed up. So sometimes the big chop is necessary to start all back over. And, but every client is different. So I want you to hear this again. We're going to get this understanding, and it's going to help us to go into where we need to go. So make sure you understand the 3 layers of the hair strand. I'm reiterating it to you. Ask questions if need be. That's what I'm here to help you understand, learn it. Retention is everything. So let's get the 3 layers of hair, and then we will move on to the hair structure quiz, and then we'll start talking about the chemical makeup of hair. So let's go.
Rubs you the wrong way. Well, hair has feelings too. It bristles when you rub it the wrong way. Go on, take a strand right now. Ready? Hold it near the root and slide your fingers down the strand toward the end. It feels smooth, even sort of silky. Now start at the end and run your fingers back up the strand. Feel that friction? It's kind of rough, right? That's because you ruffled the outer layer, the cuticle. It's one of the 3 layers that makes up the hair strand and determines how hair feels and behaves. The cuticle layer is clear like a window. The cortex is absorbent like a sponge. And the medulla? Well, it's a mystery. Back to the cuticle. It's the protective outer layer of the strand. It's made of overlapping cells that lie flat in the direction that hair grows, like feathers on a duck. So when you rub a strand in the opposite direction of growth, you're flipping those cells up so they catch on things, like your fingers just did. That irritates the strand, not to mention the duck. You can see through the cuticle to the strong, spongy second layer, the cortex. It forms the bulk of the strand and holds the color of your hair, either the one you were born with or the color you put on last week. The cortex also determines the hair's strength and elasticity. The thicker the cortex, the stronger the strand. The third layer, the medulla, hides inside the cortex. Scientists don't exactly know what it does or why people have it. Some people don't even have a medulla layer in their hair. Good to know it's there, if it's there, but nothing you need to worry about. What you should worry about is the cuticle. Its mission is to protect the cortex. And your mission is to protect the cuticle. Because even though it shields the cortex, it's fragile. Windows get broken.
And when I talk about the new products that are coming out, those products are to protect the cuticle and also to protect the cortex. So products such as K18, also Olaplex, Omniplex, any kind of coloring products that has a plex in it. Their goal is to give you the color you want, but keep the hair on the head. And how do you do that? You have a major emphasis in protecting and rebuilding the cuticle and the cortex.
Yeah? And the cuticle can get damaged or permanently ruffled if you mistreat it. Like brushing or drying hair the wrong way, exposing it to heat, sun, or wind, or abusing it with harsh chemicals that can make it swell. If the cuticle gets wrecked, there's no going back. You can calm it down with smoothing products, but they can only do so much. Once it's treated roughly, it gets an attitude, and it's hard to handle. So be kind to your 3 layers: the protective outer cuticle, the absorbent inner cortex, and the mysterious medulla. If you rub hair the right way, I mean pamper it and treat it carefully, it'll be a lot easier to live with.
All right. That's what we got going on. I absolutely love it. Let's look at hair structure labeling. Let's go into this. I'm going to ask that you use your you can use your chat or you can unmute. All right, so we have hair structure labeling. We need to label the cuticle, cortex, medulla, and the keratin, okay? And the keratin. So we just went over the structures of the hair. And so let's begin to look at this outer component. And we know that is, let's go to okay? That's your cuticle. Okay, medulla, keratin, or cortex. What do we have here? If you know, the cuticle is the outer layer. Let's get all 4 of them together. All right. All right, so we have the keratin, the medulla, the cortex, and the cuticle. Cuticle is the outer layer. Cortex is the inner layer. Medulla is the innermost layer and sometimes empty. They call this an empty pith, P-I-T-H. It is sometimes absent and fine to very fine hair. So the hair is thin. You may, or someone says they have fine hair, you may not find a medulla. And then, of course, the keratin, what the hair is made up of, is in the cortex. That's the most important. The cuticle and the cortex are very important, but the keratin, 97% of the keratin make up what we know of as hair, okay? Hair color is changed in the cortex. The strength of the hair is in the cortex. Chemicals, the hair shape is changed from curly to straight. All of that is done in the cortex, and the cuticle is there to protect it. All right, the cuticle is there to protect it. So that's something we want you guys to look at. Let's look at the composition of hair. Looking at what is hair made up of. And so let's watch the video and then we'll go into our PowerPoint.
Hydro bonds that go bust. Shampoo commercials all look the same. The hair sweeps around in slow motion, sleek and silky, like it never knew a split end or frizzy day in its life. If the camera goes close, like super intense microscope close, it's a different story. The minute that hair gets wet, it's a hair gone wild party. Hydrogen bonds breaking down all over the place, hair sapped of 1/3 of its strength. Snarls, tangles, just 'cause of water? Crazy. The difference between wet and dry hair seems obvious. You see and feel it. But there's a lot going on you can't see, like the breakdown and reforming of hydrogen bonds. Now, the term hydrogen bond sounds pretty wonky. Here's why it matters. Breaking these bonds is how you get stick-straight hair to curl, and textured curly hair to straighten. To get a better sense of how this rolls, let's go back to some hair basics. Hair's made up of a type of protein called keratin. It's amino acids that build that protein. The amino acids hang out together, like beads on a necklace. The links between them are called end bonds or peptide bonds. Lay out a whole long strand of amino acids, you've got a polypeptide chain. These chains cross-link with other chains through side bonds. Side bonds come in 3 varieties: salt, disulfide, and hydrogen. For now, we'll focus on the hydrogen bond, which is the weakest bond of the 3. Why? Because water crashes the party and the hydrogen bonds break down. Heat will break them down too. So why care about all this drama happening on a microscopic level? Because once those bonds break, you can reshape the hair. Let's say a guest comes in for a wet set. You roll her straight hair into a curl pattern and let it dry. When it is dry, guess what? Hydrogen bonds have reformed in the hair in the new pattern you created. You just got the hair to do what it naturally doesn't, at least for a while. This shakeup of the bonds is also why you have to gently comb out wet hair. Wet hair is fragile. All those protein chains are very happy hanging onto each other when the hair is dry. They give hair its strength and elasticity. That is, until water comes in and breaks up the hydrogen bonds. So the next time you admire the silky, bouncy curls on a shampoo commercial, think about how they were made. Hydrogen bonds were broken, busted up, and blasted to make that hair TV commercial perfect.
All right, so we needed to know about those particular bonds, how they build. I told you what the common phase is now when we talk about the buildup of the hair. That's where products are catered towards. Looking at hair and scalp analysis is where the meat of our lesson is going to come from. Everything is, and then what we'll do tomorrow is examine some of those products.
Five hair traits and why they matter. So what's a bad hair day anyway? Can hair really be bad? After all, it's just hair. Maybe hair's just misunderstood. It just needs someone to pay attention to it, to get where it's coming from. It's not that hard to get hair. Hair has 5 basic traits that are all you need to understand: density, texture, condition, porosity, and elasticity. Let's take a look at 2 of them, why they matter, and what you can do about them. Density is how many hair strands there are on your head. More strands per square inch, more density. Why does density matter? If your hair is really dense or thick, it will tend to droop. What can you do about that? Give it a layered cut, and like magic, you'll create the illusion of lightness and motion. On the other hand, if your hair is really thin or less dense, it will tend to fly away. With really thin hair, a blunt cut, either short or medium, will look more full. It's an illusion, but it works. See, it's not bad behavior. Your hair is just acting naturally, whether thick or thin, and all we're trying to do is bring it back toward the middle to make it look and act more like medium density hair. Next up, texture. If density is the number of strands, Texture is the size of each strand. Fine, medium, or coarse. Or small, medium, or large size strands. Texture helps you decide what kind of conditioner to use and is a big deal in coloring or perming. Whether the strands are fine, medium, or coarse matters. Here comes the confusing part. Texture can also refer to the shape of the strand. Straight, wavy, or curly. Sometimes this is called visual texture, while the size of the strand, fine, medium, coarse, is just called texture. Visual texture matters a lot for cutting because figuring out visual texture will help you decide how to control the hair when you're cutting. And you like to be in control, right? So how do you control the hair when cutting? How do you make it behave so you get the right length and the right shape? The trick is in your hand. It's the comb. Combing straight hair? Use small teeth. Combing curly hair? Use wide teeth. Got that? Straight hair? Small tooth comb, lots of tension. Curly hair? Wide tooth comb, loose tension. You want to let curly hair be curly as you cut, so you can see where it's going to end up. And you want that to be right. What about wavy hair? It's in the middle. So you probably figured out that density and texture are genetic. You're born with them. They're not good, they're not bad, they just are. The next three hair traits, condition, porosity, and elasticity, come from the environment, the world hair lives in. You know, like does it get lots of sunshine, lots of blow drying, lots of coloring? We'll cover these in another class. So that's a wrap. 5 traits: density, texture, condition, porosity, and elasticity. Hair's born with density and texture. People determine condition, porosity, and elasticity. All of them matter, none are good or bad. You just need to control them, and if you can do that, every day is a good hair day.
All right. That is absolutely amazing. Every day is a good hair day. So let's see if I go in here. Some people will say, what are we talking about? We are building ourselves into professional beauty cosmetologists. And now we're getting to all the good stuff, the amazing stuff that makes us worth the money that we ask for. It builds us. It's the foundation of everything. So let's look at handout properties from our PowerPoint presentation. And just look at this person's hair. It has texture. It looks like it has movement. It definitely has some color. And so I will say the cuticle is activated. And now this is what I want you all to remember. When the hair is straight, just say for like a silk out where the hair is pressed, the cuticle is not activated. But when you see texture, the cuticle is activated. When you see movement, when there's a curl or crimp or flip, the cuticle is activated, okay? When you see color, you guys need to know that the cortex has the color, the melanin of the hair color has been changed, and it changed in the cortex, all right? I do see some lighter pieces. I see some medium, dimensional, and I see some darker pieces. We don't necessarily know if bleach or something like that was used. They could have actually got this look from hair color, literally. They could have got this look from hair color. And so the color aspect, or maybe how damaging or how far did they go within the cortex, that's unbeknownst through a picture right now, because we were not there. We don't have any further details on it. All right. Okay. Trichology, you'll find a lot of individuals that say, hey, I want to go deeper. I want to go deeper than just having a cosmetology license. Those individuals would say, hey, they want to go into trichology. Trichology is not hair loss by itself, But trichology is a major difference between those individuals that call themselves hair loss experts or hair loss practitioners. Fine. Okay. If that's what the industry is calling, that's what the industry is calling. But a trichologist is someone who now studies hair. Okay. Their ultimate job is to find the question mark and give the answer. A trichologist does not have a major concern in how the hair looks, so that you don't care about the aesthetic of you don't it's not like you don't care, but it's not a major emphasis that clients come in and they want to be beautified, they want their hair to be just like this inspired picture. A trichologist has a deeper focus of why things are happening, okay, and they are trying to build a treatment plan for the stylist or for the client. So a trichologist also becomes a coach to the stylist. And a trichologist is just like what they would say if something's going on with the hair and scalp. Many times and many years ago, they used to go see a dermatologist. I've always been against dermatologists trying to diagnose and define things related to hair. Okay. A trichologist is the appropriate doctor reference to care for things related to hair and scalp. They can work hand in hand with a dermatologist, but I would not tell individuals to just see a dermatologist only, because they're probably just going to do some kind of prescribed shampoo or something of that nature, or a cream, where at the end of the day, the trichologist studies everything in relation to hair, okay, and skin and nails, and has a major emphasis on the study of hair. And when I talk about hair, skin, and nails, that system is integumentary system. That's the thing that they study front, back, and that's connected to the endocrine system, the reproductive system. It's connected to so many things within the body, the circulatory system, the muscular system, okay? And so a trichologist is like the leading highest degree that you can have in cosmetology, okay? A trichologist. So once you become a cosmetologist and you say, hey, I want to go deeper, maybe now, maybe later, maybe years from now, there are institutions where you'll be able to literally go through the trichology trainings, and I can refer, give you some references to look at as well tomorrow. But there's so many individuals where you can go through that training, and then you will become after testing, and it may take a couple of years because it is a college that you will have to go through. And so, yeah, it is the top of the top. And the trichologist is the doctor of hair. Okay. So you'll be working into a doctorate of hair as you want to study more about the hair root structure, the things that happen to it. And you have a big emphasis on why someone loses their hair, why their hair looks this way, why it acts this way, why it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. You become that study expert. Human hair, as reflected before, we have the hair root and hair shaft. Okay, the hair root we know is found within the epidermis. Okay, and the dermis and epidermis. At this point, we know there's many attachments to it. Man, we've studied this for the last couple of weeks. We know there's so many attachments to the follicle. The hair root, it lives within this tube-like structure called the follicle. So many attachments to that. And also, we just learned about the hair shaft having 3 parts, and the cuticle, the cortex, and medulla. The hair shaft is what we see with our eyes. So the hair that you see is considered a hair shaft, and it extends outside of the pore. All right, so that's what we literally see, the hair shaft. We do not see the hair root. The hair root is embedded within the underlying of the skin. Okay. And let's say this: everything under the skin, the hair root under the skin, that is alive. The hair shaft, cuticle, cortex, and medulla, although it reacts to products and ingredients, things of that nature, it is not alive. Okay. It does have sensory notions. Okay. That's connected to the erector pili muscle. that gives us a sense of coldness, gives us a sense of heat, scared, things of that nature. Sensory, okay, sensors. But this hair shaft is not alive, but the hair root is alive and well. Okay. The living portion of the hair that's alive, this is everything on the underneath. The rectopillar muscle, okay, that muscle contracts the hair, and this allows us to have goosebumps. When we say our hair standing on end, when we're scared, or when we're frightened, when we're scared, or when we're cold. Sebaceous gland secretes oil into the follicle, gives the hairs its natural luster. This is why a lot of times you hear people say we don't need any additional oil because our body produces it. But for those individuals that have a lack of oil, that means that sebaceous glands are not evidently not producing, so you're going to need something. The hair follicle itself, which is inside the hair root, the hair papilla, and then you have the dermal blood vessels. This is a very important area here, the hair bulb, hair papilla area, because as you have the nutrients in the blood, you are what you eat. So whatever you put into your body is going to go to all body parts and feed everything. So even the bad stuff. So the nutrients are pulled out and go into the circulatory system. Your dermal blood vessels receive it. Your hair papilla receives it and feeds it to the hair. So based on what it brings in to feed into the hairs, whether you have what we call a good, great, healthy strand, or you have a strand that's coming out that is not so great. So when hair comes out dry, hair comes out brittle, it could be what you're eating that's being processed and fed over into the hair. A lot of times, sugar, snacks, things of that nature. If you're a junk food person and a processed food person, you're probably not going to produce great successful strands of hair that have longevity. You're probably going to produce hair that's mediocre, or really, I don't want to consider, I'm not saying bad hair as in texture, but bad hair as in it's already coming out with problems and you already got to fix it as soon as it comes out. Okay. So you don't want to do that too. Ingesting drugs and alcohol, things of that nature, not that comes out of the body as well. And so, yeah, you can have hair that has issues from just the consumption of and overconsumption of those minerals, waste materials as well. Okay. We've already named and described the structures. The cuticle is the outer layer, protects the cortex. The cortex is where everything goes down, okay, chemically. Also, the melanin is in that place. And the medulla, which is sometimes absent in fine to very fine hair, okay? And so we did the little quiz. We're going to probably take 5 more minutes on this, and then we'll pick up on this tomorrow. But this was a great introduction. You understanding what you see, what you can see today. You need to understand what's underneath, and then we're going to move into consultation of that again tomorrow. So the keratin is within the cortex. That's the strength of the hair. Okay, if you're doing a chemical like a bleach, or like a relaxer, or like a permanent wave, a jerry curl, or something of that nature, it's going to process in the keratin, in the cortex, and the keratin is going to be in damaged or enhanced. Okay, one or the other. Okay, it's going to deal with one or the other. So at the end of the day, we need to make sure that any chemical that we're performing, that remember it's going to really transcend in the cortex area, other things in the cortex area, even if you're not trying to bother it, it's going to be bothered. Okay, so your strength of the hair, your moisture of the hair color, all of that stuff could possibly be damaged depending on what you're using. And you could ruin the keratin makeup of the hair, which the hair can no longer, sometimes if you overprocess it so much, you'll break down the keratin where the hair doesn't even look like hair anymore under a microscope. And so this is where people say the hair becomes very limp, doesn't do anything. It just, you touch it, or you just do one little comb through and you lose so much hair. you've lost the keratin makeup of the hair. Okay, you lost the keratin makeup of the hair. And so everything that you do chemically is a major damage, can be a major damage to the hair. So you have to have that expert knowledge of the product before even performing that service on the client. All right. And the cuticle is 6 to 10 layers. It's there to protect. Okay. So normally you do have an average of 6 to 10 layers. But let me tell you, if the hair is in the coarse category, like how it feels, that person has more than 6 to 10 layers. If the hair is if they define their hair as fine, they have average of less. Okay. They're on the low end of that 6 to 10 layers. And so remember, the cuticle is a protectant. So if I'm doing a chemical relaxer, for instance, and it's on coarse hair, that coarse hair is going to, that relaxer is going to have more time to go through that cuticle. All right. So when it comes to a person says, well, they can take a certain chemical, it's not like they can take it. You know, their hair just needs more time because it has so much cuticle. And the relaxer has to go through all those cuticles just to get to the cortex. And you'll see when it gets to the cortex because it starts straightening out. Okay. When it comes to someone that has fine hair, when it comes to fine hair and they have less cuticles, you can put it on the hair and turn around, turn your head, and boom, the hair is already starting to straighten out. So you don't have a lot of processing time when it comes to fine hair. This is also confirmation. Yes, you got to have the knowledge of what you're doing, and you have to practice your technique, because if you're a slow person of putting chemicals in, you can really do some damage to this person's hair shaft. Not intentionally, but you could do some damage because you don't understand the cuticle layers. You don't understand how things are working chemically, and you can really move into over processing without even knowing it. So before doing any chemicals, have a great understanding of it, the product, have a great understanding of the hair, and accurately, define the hair as fine, medium, or coarse. So we're able to pick the correct chemical if we're going to be using chemicals to treat the client's hair. Okay. Just looking at the chemical composition of hair. When you see these scales here, y'all, this is the cuticle, and they're open. These scales here are cuticle and they're open. Just like with facials, you can go up under the steamer and the steamer opens the pores. Steam also can open up this cuticle. When doing chemical services, in order for things to really work in the cortex, you can't get to the cortex unless you open this up. Okay, so this is, the product, or you internal or external heat that opens this cuticle up. Your chemical goes in between here into the cortex and start working. Guys, we have to make sure that we rinse that chemical out, because little pieces of that chemical or that product can still sit in these little cuticles. That's where you have what we call weeping oxidation. So you got to make sure water pressure is T to get all of these trace minerals out of this cuticle area. We use something called stabilizer, or we'll use something called neutralizer. I like to use both of them. I'm going to retard the chemical. I'm going to stop it from working, and then I'm going to rinse it out. And I'm going to do that process, and I'm going to stabilize. I'm going to do that process about 2. Sometimes the coarser the hair, the more you have to do it. But that's the chemical composition of hair. Let's pick up tomorrow on the chemical makeup of hair. We're talking cones tomorrow, COHNS. I see you guys tomorrow morning, okay, for this study session. If you haven't looked at this already, I'm probably going to send this to you email. But you get familiar with the chemical makeup, chemical composition.